Shalom, shalom. It's Brother Yatazadaq, hero Israel. I'd like to start off by giving honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Right? This is Revelation chapter 14 breakdown. Right? So let's get right into it. Lord willing, you're edified. Giving honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and Ba'ashem Kakwadash. Right? And so let's go to Revelation chapter 14 and verse 1, right? Revelation 14 and 1, and I looked and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads, right? Which is the lamb is Hamashiach Yahushai, right? Standing upon Mount Zion. It's talking about, right, post deliverance of the elect, right? Hamashiach Yahushai, right? The New Jerusalem coming down from heaven, right? It's going to be in the form of the mothership, the fathership, Salakia, right? Descending back from the heavens, right? With the elect back on the Holy Land, right? To meet the armies, right, of these other nations, right? That will be fighting each other during this time. Right, so you read about in Second Esdras chapter 13. Let's get that real quick. Second Esdras 13 and Second Esdras 13 and 6. But I beheld, and lo, he had great himself a great mountain, and flew upon it. Right, that's the fathership, right? Hamashiach Yahushai flying upon it, right? But I would have seen a region or place where the hill was graven, and I could not, right? And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, yet there's fight, right? Second Esdras 13 and verse 12, and afterward I saw the man come down from the mountain, right, which is the fathership, and call unto him an other peaceable multitude, right? Because you have the 144,000, you have the great multitude, which are all the elect, the 1/3, right? The remnant, right, of Yasharahla, right? So let's read on down, right? Salakia, right? Second Esdras 13:33. When all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land lead the battle they have one against another, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them, willing to come and overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of Mount Zion, right? And Zion shall come and shall be shewed to all men, having been prepared and builded, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands, right? A hill symbolizing strength, right? Graven without hands is talking about, right, the remnant that return back onto the Holy Land with spiritual power, right, after they descend from the heavens, right? Revelation 14 and 2. And I heard a voice from heaven as a voice of many waters, as voice of a great thunder, and I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, right? Revelation 14 and 3, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne, before the four beasts and the elders, and no man can learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins, right? Women it's a representation of the philosophies of this world, right? Which the elect, scriptures say that the elect will not be deceived, right? and right, it says for they are virgins, right? What does that mean? They are not defiled by the philosophies of this world, by Esau's philosophy, right? Which is you go into the Greek, it's pseudoscience, it's pseudos, right? Right, you can get that what is that, Salakia. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I believe that's 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 9. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. Right? So 2 Thessalonians 2 and 10. Right, let's get that in the blue letter. Right? What's that talk? What does that mean? Right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 10. Right? So like it. 2 Thessalonians 2 and 10. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 10, right? That word for 2 and 9, Salakia. Right? What is the lying wonders? What is the signs? Right? Like I brought out in the previous lesson, Revelation chapter 13, right? Which speaks about, right, his technology, right, the works that he did, right? Revelation 13 and 14, 13, Revelation 13 and 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, right, through his, right, atomic bomb, right, in Hiroshima 1945, right, it's 2 bombs that he dropped, right? That's part of his great wonders, right? His right, his power that was given unto him by the Heavenly Father, right, which is part of the blessing that Isaac gave him, right, which is Yahweh Shai, right, and the reincarnation, right? So that's in a way Esau's, right, spiritual forefather, right? So that's why the scriptures say that, right, thou hast spoken, thou slanderest thine own mother's son, right? Thou speakest against thy brother, right? And slanderous, right? Because he's a slanderer, right? So it says, right, with all power and signs, right? What is part of his signs? Right? Like the scriptures say, the smith bloweth the coals into the fire, and the weapons of the destroyer for the Lord said, for the weapons of the destroyer, right, to destroy, which is the weapons of the Lord's indignation, right? Esau is going to fall upon his own sword, right? Just like I brought out in Revelation chapter 13 lesson, right? The Romans, they thrived off the iron weapons, right? But eventually they were taken down by the same iron weapons that they used to subdue, right, those around them, right? So that's part of his power, right? His signs and lying wonders, his philosophies, right, which is all part of the beast, the image of the beast, right? His power, his lying, right, pseudoscience, his signs and lying wonders, right, which is part of his technology, his surveillance systems, right? Things like, what do you call it? Right, like it says in Revelation 16 and 13. And I saw three unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Right here, the dragon is what? The Roman Empire, revitalized Roman Empire. The beast is NATO EU, right? The false prophet is what? Christianity, Catholicism, which all goes back to the Vatican, right? Islam, all these things originate from Catholicism, right? Which is pseudoscience. These are lying wonders, part of Esau's lying wonders. NATO, EU, that's part of his lying wonders. The lies that he pushes on the earth. The NATO and EU is part of his signs of his power, right? Which is part of the image, right? They said in Revelation 13 and 4, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him, right? So the three unclean spirits, that's what those three unclean spirits are, which is part of his what? Power, signs, and lying wonders, right? And I'm going to prove it. Revelation 16 and 14, for they are the spirits of devils. Or let's do Revelation 16 and 13 again. I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. Right? Because part of, right, the prophecies is that NATO and EU, right, these European nations will turn up against the great whore, right, the dragon, right, which is the NATO and EU that the whore sat upon, right, is going to turn on that whore and burn her up, right, which is America Babylon the Great, right, Mystery Babylon, right. So it says, for they are the spirit of devils working miracles, which go forth to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty, right, which is why, right, one of those unclean spirits is the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet, right? Because NATO is going to turn on America Babylon the Great, right? This whole, right, spirit of joining, let's all be one, right? That comes from these false understandings, right? Which is part of the false prophet, right? Because this is what Esau pushes, right? The dragon, right, is the beast in Revelation 13 and 4, right? Because here, right, it doesn't say, right, the whore that sitteth on the beast. Here it says, Revelation 13 and 4, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, right? NATO EU backs up America Babylon the Great, which it receives its power. They worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. But that's all changing, right? As you have the internet of things being established, Esau, right, is flaunting his technology, which is part of his miracles, right? His signs, right? His lying wonders is what? All this pseudoscience that he pushes, all these false flags, all this confusion, right? His new digital era, right? Which is going to come in the form of a charagma, right? Which is hastening, right, as we speak, right? So Revelation 16 and 15, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Right? Because all these things are going to come unawares to 2/3 of our people. Right? They don't understand the times that we're in. Right? This isn't the time to be settled on your lees. This is the time to, right, occupying prophecy. Right? Warn the people. Right? Make the vision plain upon tables. Right? Like the scriptures say. Right? And as we get to a more perfect understanding, right, this is part of the ministry, it says in Ephesians chapter 4, right, till we all come in the unity of the faith. Because at the end of the day, when these things are hastening, right, the elect are going to, right, be built up, right, with the 100% truth, right, wherever the elect are, right, because they're sincere brothers and sisters in these various camps, but they have to understand what the Charagma is, what times we're in, right, and at the end of the day, those that will understand, right, and the wicked will not understand, like it says in Daniel chapter 12, right. So we rebuke these other camps, right. When I say we, I say we fought. I say we because I fought. We here at it's like it here at Hero Israel, we follow the doctrine of GMS, right. So they are our teachers, right. And right, they rebuke these other camps, right. And here at Hero Israel, we call them out as well. Why? Because that's part of our way of life, right? Not suffer sin upon your neighbor, right? Which is children of your people, right? Your kin, right? The Israelites, so-called Black, Hispanic, Native Americans, right? So yeah, all these things are gonna come unaware, right? To those that will be deceived, those that will worship the image of the beast, right, which is in the form of, right, denying the Lord and Savior that bought them, right, not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. These are men and women without faith, right. They're part of this world, right. They refuse to hear the word of the Lord, right. So they ultimately, right, worshiping the image of the beast comes in the form of what? Being a part of it, its customs, its ways, right? Which we're going to go over as well, right? So these are not written in the book of life, right? Like it says in Revelation 13:8, right? And ultimately they're going to be coerced and taken to Charagma, and they're going to be destroyed, right? So it says, let's go back. Let's get this in the Greek, right? So pseudos, a falsehood, lying, a lie, a conscious and intentional falsehood. In a broad sense, whatever is not what it seems to be. Perverse, impious, deceitful, precepts, right? All these so-called religions, right, is deceitful precepts, right? It's not according to this word, right? Scriptures say if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them, right? And you can't make this book with another book. This book has nothing to do with the Quran, right? This is about prophecy, right? This book is about God's chosen people, right? The understanding, the wisdom, right, which is given unto the actual seed, right? Through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The Lord is not dealing with a spiritual Israel, right? So yeah, that's what it says in the book of Isaiah, right? You cannot make this with any other book, right? But at the end of the day, right, the elect will not be deceived, right? So it says, Revelation chapter 13, verse 14, and Revelation 14 and 4, right? These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whatsoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb, right? Right, so the new song is what? The true understanding, right? That has been hidden for over 2,000 years, right? So it says, these are they which are not defiled with women, for they are virgins, right? Because 144,000 of those, the ones preaching his word, right? Prophesying the end of Esau's kingdom, right? The coming of the kingdom of heaven, which is for Israel, right? And you're going to have the great multitude, right? Those that will receive this understanding, right? As well, which will get delivered, right? So these are they which follow the Lamb whatsoever we go with. These are redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God, right? The first fruits is 144,000, right? Like it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, right? Hamashiach, and then the first fruits, and then those, right, that is coming, right? So it says, actually, let's get, so I read Revelation 13 and 8, right? And so let's get Revelation 14 and 5, right? And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God, right? The word guile is dolos, right? Which means guile, decoy, right? Because you have decoy camps set up, stumbling blocks set up, right? So this is the book of John, chapter 10 and verse 1, right? And the scriptures speak about, right, even the shepherds of these people causing them to err, right? Those of our people that are still in the so-called Christianity, Catholicism, right, not warning our people about what's coming, right, in these various churches, right? Still bound to wood, to stone, right? They're going off, right? Lord is going to destroy them, right? And I'm bringing some precepts on that. Right, so it says, John chapter 10 and verse 1, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door of the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber, right? Revelation 16 and 13, right? Because they're going to be deceived into worshiping the image of the beast through the lying wonders, right? Through Esau's power. They're going to say, right? They're not going to have faith, right? The scriptures say, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth, right? They're going to say, who is able to make war with him, right? They don't believe in the creator of heaven and earth, right? They believe in man, right? The book of Jeremiah says, cursed is he that trusteth in man, right? Maketh flesh his arm, right? Right? So you didn't be deceived by what? Esau's power, his lying wonders, right? His signs, right? Which is his miracles that he does through his trying to edit creation, right? His technology, his surveillance systems, right? The new digital era, right? That is coming in the form of charagma, right? So it says, right? So, right? That's talking about these other philosophies, right? He that climbeth up some other way, right, is a thief and a robber, right? Now this is talking about, right, the wicked Pharisees, right, and the publicans, right, that were hypocrites, right, and were over, right, the Jews during the time of the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire, right, and it's talking about Esau as well. But you can align this with the philosophies that Esau pushes, right, because he deceives our people, what? Through his philosophies, through his signs, through his lying wonders, through his power, right, which is the sword, which was given unto him of the Heavenly Father. The charagma is really the Lord's charagma, right, to separate ultimately the sheep and his goats from the goats, right, of his people, right? So this book of John, chapter 10, verse 3, to him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out, right? Which is why, right, the Father's name is written on the foreheads of the 144,000, right? Because the Lord knows those that are His. It's not going to actually be on their foreheads, right? This is parabolic, for they're going to receive the understanding, right? Why? Because they've been predestined since the foundation of the world, like it says in Revelation 13 and 8, right? Because they are written in the book of life, right? John chapter 10 and verse 3, to him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice. He calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out, right? When he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice, right? Who is the voice of the Lord, right? His servants, the prophets, right? Which what word are we speaking? The words of Hamashiach Yahushai. He comes in the volume of the book. He is the word, right? John 10:5. The stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers, right? The stranger is what? These other philosophies, right? Same like women, wine. That's compared to philosophies, right? Strange doctrines, right? The stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him. For they know not the voice of strangers, right? John chapter 10 verse 6. This parable Yahushua spake unto them, but they understood not what things it were which he spake unto them, right? Then Yahushua said unto them, saith unto them again, verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep, right? All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them, right? The Pharisees, the wicked scribes, right? Because they were teaching our people the law, right? But they were, right, outcasting these Israelite foreigners, right? The publicans, right? Calling them sinners, right? These were holier than thou men, right? They were relying on the law to justify them, right? You have that same spirit in what? Christianity, right? Catholicism, Islam, right? The holier than thou spirit, right? So it says, then said Yahushua unto them again, verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them, right? And even afterwards, right? It says in Zechariah chapter 11, right, that the Lord will set up a foolish shepherd, right, an idle shepherd, right, which is what? So-called, right, so-called white Jesus, so-called, right, worshiping stone, a rock, wood, bound down to wood, right, which is in the form of these, right, false understandings, right, Christianity, Catholicism, right, that's the main root, right, which comes from the Vatican. These are Edomites pushing lies in the earth, right? So these are thieves and robbers, right? I am the door, by me, John 10:9, I am the door, by me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture, right? Which is a true understanding, right? Through his voice, right? Through his servants, the prophets, right? The thief cometh not for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly, right? Which is in the form of, right, the Comforter, which is this word, right? Yahushua said, I will send you another Comforter, which is the scriptures, right? That we will receive in these latter days, right? As the remnant are waking up, right? That is that good pasture, right? The hireling, right? Is what? John 10:12, but he that is an hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth. And the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep. Right? The hireling are these false pastors. Right? Some of these other camps that are not warning our people about what's coming. Right? And the wolf is what? Being entangled in these false doctrines. Right? So only the elect are going to receive this word, right? At the end of the day, right? So you have, right, the 144,000 speaking no guile, no, right? They're not decoys. They're giving you the whole truth, right? But you're gonna have, right? Let's get that in Zechariah chapter 11, right? I was gonna bring that up afterwards, but it's of the Spirit, right? Zechariah chapter 11 and verse 3. There is a voice of the howling of the shepherds, for their glory is spoiled, a voice of the roaring of young lions, for the pride of Jordan is spoiled, right? Thus saith the Lord my God, feed the flock of the slaughter, right? Because it says in the book of Ezra that we are as sheep led unto the slaughter, right? But the Lord will not suffer his people to dwell in the land of Egypt, right? He's going to deliver a remnant, right? As these plagues are coming, right? The elect are not going to be deceived, right? So it says, so Zechariah 11:3, there is a voice of the howling of the shepherds, right? The glory is spoiled. Why? Because, right, the Lord casts us off as a people, right? Gave the law, statutes, and commandments to Israel, placed them in their holy land, right? But we sacrificed under every green tree, and eventually, right, the Lord cast off the northern kingdom, right? And then the southern kingdom, right, went into captivity under the Babylonians, right? They eventually returned, right, back onto the land, right? So, right, you have to be spiritual when reading the scriptures, right? It's talking about back then, right? But even in these latter days, right, you have false shepherds, right? You have idols, right? Celebrities and idol, right? Right? They're howling, right? Just nonsense, lies, right? Pushing Esau's lies, right? Why? Because they've been bought, right? So Zechariah 11:4 says, "Thus saith the Lord my God, feed the flock of the slaughter," right? Because we have no power on this side, right? We are in the hands of the wicked, right? But this is about faith, right? This is about, right, receiving his word, right? And the Lord, right, right, everything else is in the Lord's hand, right? So we were spoiled back then, right? Like it says in Lamentations, right? The Lord had been an enemy unto Israel, right? Zechariah 11:5, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, right? These false pastors, right, in these churches, right? The celebrities, right, that are paid, right, to push a certain mindset onto Jake, right? And it's talking about Esau as well, but this is mainly talking about our people, right? They don't hold themselves guilty, right? They that sell them, right, say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich." And their own shepherds pity them not, right? These churches, right, teaching our people lies even today, right? Zechariah 11:6, right? And this happened back then as well, right? We were in the Holy Land, right? "For I will no more pity the inhabitants of the land, saith the Lord, but lo, I will deliver every one into his neighbor's hand, into the hand of his king. They shall smite the land, and out of their hand I will not deliver them," right? So let's get an example, right? Let's get this real quick. I'll show you a good example, right? These celebrities are not for you. These rappers are pushing still that black, brown, right? The black, brown lies, right? So-called rappers, all that, all these things are a distraction, right? To keep you from knowing who you are, to keep you from knowing what's coming, right? So like here, let's get that real quick. Right? So look at this, right? These are right, your shepherds, right? Watch this. This is from Elder Yashawamba's channel, 2 Through and Info, right? It says, "Bay rolling with the red horse," right? The celebrities all belong to Esau, the so-called white man. They are puppets and push the agendas and make them accepted by the masses, right? This is Beyonce in a Vogue cover with a, it says Beyonce turns up the heat, right? She's sitting on a red horse, right? Like Revelation, the red horse is Esau. It was given unto him a great sword. She's riding the red horse, right? These people are not for you, right? And you have these other camps, they're decoys, right? Stumbling blocks, right? The 2/3 of our people, right? They're not gonna have an excuse in that day, right? And that day is hastening, right? The water Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? Because we receive this, right? Which is precious, right? This is a precious thing to know you're an Israelite. And it's more than just knowing you're an Israelite. It's about knowing the prophecies, right? It's about having faith, right? It says 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 8, right? When we come back to Zechariah 11, right? 1 Corinthians 10 and 8. Salaki, is that it? 1 Corinthians 10 and 8. We'll start at 13, right? 12, right? Wherefore, let him think it that he standeth, take heed lest he fall, right? There had no temptation taking you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men. Judge ye what I say. Right? 1 Corinthians 10 and 16. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Hamashiach? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Hamashiach? Right? For we being many are one bread and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread. Here's the point, 1 Corinthians 10 and 18. Behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar, right? Because back then, right, you had Israel, right, under, right, in these pagan Roman temples, right, eating of the flesh, right, lawful or not, it doesn't say. Most likely it wasn't lawful, right? But there was instances, right, when it wasn't swine, right, because Paul says, right, he said, right, what's sold in the shambles, right, ask no question for conscience sake, right? So some things were sold in the shambles, right, under the ancient Roman Empire, right, in these markets, but they were sacrificed unto idols. But Paul said the idol is nothing in the world, right? But it was talking about lawful food, right? So it says, 1 Corinthians 10 and 18, Behold, Israel after the flesh, are they not they which eat of the sacrifices, partakers of the altar, right? Because if you're eating of a sacrifice, right, you're also partaking in the ceremony, right? Like right, if you're sitting, right, if you go, right, and you right, associate, right, you celebrate Christmas, right, that's pagan, that's off, right? Thanksgiving, that's pagan, that's off, right? Now some brothers say that, right, if you go there and you're just there to be with your family, right, you can eat the food, right, because the scriptures say, right, as, right, an idol is nothing, right? That's correct. But if your brother, you're not to overthrow your faith of your brother, right? If he says, look, that's off, you know, don't go, right? You're not supposed to go, right? But right, if you're on your own, right, and you go, right, you're just not supposed to, right, partake, right, actually, you know, do the under the tree thing, right, and all that, right, or Halloween, you put on a costume, right, that's off, right, that's partaking of the actual ceremony, right. But the point is that, right, 1 Corinthians 10 and 18, Behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar, right? Because these other so-called celebrities that sold out, these other camps that are not telling you the 100% truth, right? they're eating of the Esau sacrifices because they sold out, right? So of course they're going to feed you lies, right? Because they're getting paid to do it. They're eating part of the sacrifices, right? And our people that are still stuck, that are still in this world, right? Of course they're eating of the sacrifices, right? Because they like, right, being in sin, right? Eating swine's flesh, right? Partaking of Esau's altar, right? Because the elect, what does it Revelation 11 and 1 say? Revelation 11 and 1, there was given me a reed like unto a rod. The reed is a measuring stick, is the scriptures, right? And the angel stood saying, rise and measure the temple of God, meaning teach Israel, right? And the altar and them that worship therein, right? The temple is Israel as a whole, right? Mainly the elect, right? The 1/3, which is compromise, which is compromise, which is made up of the altar, which is 144,000, and them that worship therein, the great multitude, them that receive the understanding, right? Which is the 1/3, the elect 1/3. Then you have the 2/3. They're not going to receive this understanding, right? Revelation 11:2. But the court that is without the temple leave out, measure it not, meaning the court which is without, teach it not, before it is given unto the Gentiles, meaning we're not to teach these other nations the laws, right? To keep the high holy days, right? Because they're inherently wicked. They're inherently idolaters. They're filthy idolaters, right? This word is not for them, right? So what we're supposed to tell them is their judgment, right? The day of the Lord, right? Which is why the right scriptures say that the gospel of the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world as a witness unto the nations, right? The holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. Right, so that's the point, right? We're partaking of this word, right? The sacrifice that the men that are out there teaching, right? We're eating of their sacrifice, which is them building us up in this word. Those that receive it, those that go out and teach. Another receives it, right? Which is a sacrifice, and one partaking of the sacrifice, right? So you see there's an altar, Esau's altar, right? Which is nothing but lies. His altar is, the sacrifices are filth, right? Our people are eating up his lies, right? So of course they're going to partake, right? Of course they're going to give you lies because they're eating the lies. They're paid off, right? First Corinthians 10:19. What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything, right? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God, and I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. Right? You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of the devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and the table of devils, right? So you're either going to serve God or mammon, God or money, right? This is Revelation chapter, or let's get Songs of Solomon chapter 5 and verse 9. Then we'll go back to Zechariah chapter 11, right? This is a book of Songs of Solomon chapter 5 and verse 9, right? What does it say? What is thy beloved more than another beloved? O fairest among women, why is thy beloved more than another beloved, that thou doest so charge us? Right? Which is what you have, one beloved is more than another on this side, right? Because you have spirits of the wicked and you have spirits of the righteous in Israel. Not all Israel is of Israel, right? Why is thy beloved more than another beloved? Why? Because 2/3 of our people are wicked, right? Which is why it says, Songs of Solomon, right? 5 and 6. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had withdrawn himself and was gone. My soul failed when he spake. I saw him and I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer, right? So you can't make yourself of the elect, right? Because the Lord casts us off as a people, as a whole, right? We all fell into a Gentile state of mind, right? But, right, 2/3 of our people, right, even if they try to, right, pick up this Bible, right, and understand it, they try to seek him, they're not gonna find him, because it's not given unto them. I called him, but he gave me no answer, right? So election have obtained it, the rest were blinded, right? Songs of Solomon 5 and 7. The watchmen went about the city, found me, they smote me. They wounded me, the keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. Right? Right? And we are the watchmen, right? We're smiting our people, right? With this truth. Right? But, right, you know, 2/3 of our people, right? You try to, you know, cut them with the spiritual sword, right? They're not gonna feel it, right? They're like, right? They're just not gonna understand, right? This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 11, and right, Lord willing, I'll do a video on Zechariah chapter 11, right? Zechariah 11 and 6. For I will no more pity the inhabitants of the land, save the Lord. Right, so this happened back then, but it's going to happen again. Right, and it happened in the time of ancient Roman Empire. Right, so the Lord casts us off, right, twice out of the land of Israel. Right, you have when all Israel was put into the place in the Holy Land. Then you have when the southern kingdom, right? Like it says in verse 8, 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month. My soul loathed them, and their soul also abhorred me, right? Which is, right, going to something else, but, right, Zechariah 11 and 6, right? And, right, this is going to happen as well in these latter days, right? He's not going to pity the inhabitants of this land, right? He's going to deliver our people, every one, into his neighbor's hand, because there's going to be great sedition, to the hand of his king, right? These various governors, right? The princes will not regard their governors, and so on and so forth, right? They shall smite the land, right? Because what is coming now, right? We're in the time of the black horse, dearth upon the land, right? They're smiting the land, right? Right? The so-called manufacturing plants, right? Fertilizers, plants, right? This is all sabotage, right? Killing of the cattle, egg, right? Production plants, right? Mysteriously catching on fire, right? All this, right? This is a controlled demolition, is smiting the land, and out of their hand I will not deliver them, right? So 2/3 of our people, they made a covenant with death. Right, the covenants can be disannulled. Right, they're gonna lean upon the staff of Egypt, and it's gonna pierce through their arm. Right, which is why it says what? Zechariah 11 and 7. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye, and his arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Right, Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17 says, right, woe unto man that trusteth in man, and giveth his arm, like, let's get that real quick, actually. Jeremiah chapter 17, make it flesh his arm, right? Jeremiah 17:5, thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from the Lord. Right? Select, yeah, I know I clicked that. Zechariah chapter 11, right, and 17. Woe to the idle shepherd, right? Because our people are trusted in these false understandings, right? Still pushing that sweet Jesus, right? That white Jesus, right? Allah, Jehovah, that's not the name. It's Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, right? God is a title. Allah, that just means God. That means God or power, right? That's all that means, right? The sword shall be upon his arm, and upon his right eye, right? Dana Hamashiach Yahushai said that, right, if one has, right, darkness in his eyes, how great is that darkness, right? Meaning both of your eyes have to be enlightened, right? You have to, right, receive the whole eye salve, right? And what is Hamashiach Yahushai said, right? Let's get that real quick. Right? So Matthew chapter 29 and Matthew 5 and 29. Right? We'll start at 27. You have heard that it was said of them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. Right? But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. Right? So it's about your intention, right? So people in their minds, they don't believe, right, in the Lord of hosts, right, in Yahushua Mashiach, right, that will be delivered, right, and that starts within your mind, right. People lust after this woman, America Babylon the Great, so they commit adultery with her, right, which means forsaking this word, forsaking their heritage, right, their customs, right. Matthew 5 and 29, and if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it forth from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members perish, and not that thy whole body shall be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off, cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that the whole body should be cast into hell. Right? Matthew chapter 5 and select, yeah. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 22. We'll start at 21. Right? 19. Matthew 6 and 19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Right? So Mashiach, he was deep, right? He was speaking, right? You got to be spiritual, right? Matthew 6 and 22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Right? So like it says in Zechariah 11:17, right? The idle shepherd. An idol, literally an idol, right? I believe walaya is the Hebrew for that, which means good for nothing, right? The good for nothing shepherd, right? Which is these pastures, right? Those that are warning our people, right? They're still in Christianity, Catholicism, right? Leaving the flock, right? The sword's going to be upon his arm, right? Upon his right eye, right? Why? Because they're offended by this word, right? The right eye, right? 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 It's darkened, right? They're double-minded, right? They're right. They're not giving our people the whole truth, right? They don't have the true eye salve, right? they're making their arm flesh, right? These people are making, right, their arm flesh. The arm of a man is their strength, right? So they're relying on the strength of false understandings, right? But with this truth coming out, right, these false pastors, right, their arm is going to be dried up, right? Their power, right, to deceive our people is going to be taken away, right? Which is why you see many of our people leaving the Christianity, Catholicism, right? Right, and coming into the truth, right? These are those that are foreordained since the foundation of the world, right? So you can't make yourself of the elect, right? You either receive this or not, right? And you got to get this word while you can, right? So let's go back to right. So I'm gonna do a quick review of Zechariah 11, right? So we're feeding the flock of the slaughter, right? Right. Zechariah 11:7, and I will feed the flock of the slaughter, even you, O poor of the flock. And I took unto me 2 staves, the one called Beauty, the other called Bands, and I fed the flock. Right. Beauty is the favor that was given to Israel, right, when they were in the Holy Land, when they were first placed there, right? Even in time of the ancient Roman Empire, right? Bands is what? The unity, right, that was between Northern and Southern Kingdom, right, when they were in the Holy Land, right? Because even in time of the ancient Roman Empire, you had various churches that were united, right? Jews and Gentiles, right, which were Israelite foreigners, right? And they were fed a certain dispensation of the gospel, right? Zechariah 11:8, 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month, my soul loathed them, and their soul also abhorred me, right? The 3 shepherds is what? Judah, Benjamin, Simeon, right? Because the Levites are scattered everywhere, right? That were still under the Roman subjugation, right? Then said, I will not feed you, right? Or Salakia, Zechariah 11:8, right? So my soul loathed them, and their soul also abhorred me, right? Because the Pharisees, the scribes, they were still pushing those lies onto the Jews, right? And you had proselytes that were approaching these Israelite foreigners, immediately commanding them to circumcise themselves, right? In order to be able to call them their converts, right? So they weren't building them up in the right way, right? And right, which is why when the Mashiach Yahushua came on the scene, he rebuked the Jews, right, for separating themselves from the Israelite foreigners. When the law says, right, you're supposed to bring your people in, right? Which is why, right, Yahushua spoke that parable of the Good Samaritan, right, because it was a stranger ultimately that showed him mercy, right? And did not Hamashiach Yahushua say, right, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right, which is that great commission and still stands today, right? So the Lord loathed the Jews, right, and they also loathed Hamashiach Yahushua, which is why they delivered him up, right, because of jealousy, right, because of their own, right, covetousness, right, because they sought to keep their place among the Romans, right? Zechariah 11:9, then said I will not feed you. That dieth, let it die. That is to be cut off, let it be cut off. And let the rest eat, every one the flesh of another. Right? Which is what happened when, right, the southern kingdom, before they went into the Babylonian captivity, right, they ate the flesh of their children, right? 70 AD, right? There was a great dearth, right? They had to eat the flesh of their children. Right, there was cannibalism going on, right? Because the Lord, right, what does it say? Let's get that real quick, actually. Right, so Zechariah, right, 11:8, right, the 3 shepherds, right, the 3 heads, the 3, right, tribes, right, which you had heads under those tribes. which were the Jews, the scribes, the Pharisees, right? And right, the Lord cut them off in 1 month, right? That's 30. Month is what, 30 days, right? And this started when tensions started escalating, right, between right the Jews and the Romans, right? This was after Hamashiach Yahushai, right, was delivered up, right? So they abhorred Yahushai, right? And he rebuked the Jews, right, in his ministry, right? So you can look up the Alexandria riots, right, which was in 40 AD, right? 40 AD to 70 AD, that's 30 years, right? And the Lord did what? Right, he cut them off in 1 month. That's parabolic for 30 years, right? 40 AD to 70 AD, right? Then said, I will not feed you, that died, let it die, right? Literally, there was, right, the Romans compassed the Jerusalem, right? And there was a famine, right? So that died, that was cut off, right? And the rest, right? Because if you look up do your research, right? This was during the Passover. Those that were going into Jerusalem, the Roman armies, those that were had their pilgrimage to Jerusalem, the Roman armies that compassed Jerusalem about, they were letting those people in, right? In order to forward the famine, right? The more people, right, you let in, the more, right, the resources are taken up or eaten up, right? That is you cut off, let it be cut off. Let the rest eat everyone the flesh of another, right? And that's what happened, right? There was cannibalism going on, right? So this happened back then, right? And it's going to happen to this in these latter days as well, right? Zechariah 11 and 10, and I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it asunder, that I might break my covenant, which I made with all the people. Right? So the Lord took away the favor. Beauty is representation of favor. Right? From Israelites, the whole nation, when they entered into the Holy Land. Right? Started off with the northern kingdom and then the southern kingdom. Right? Then they were taken into the Babylonian captivity. They were brought back, and then Hamashiach came on the scene later on, right? Then they were cast off, right? And in these latter days, right? You know, what once was will be done. There's nothing new under the sun, right? And it was broken in that day, and so the poor of the flock that waited upon me knew that it was the word of the Lord, right? Because these Jews and Israelite foreigners that were done under the ancient Roman Empire, right? What does it say in Daniel chapter 9? Let's get that real quick. Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9 and Daniel 9 and 27, and ye shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, right, which is 66 to 73 AD, the Jewish-Roman wars, right, that's a week, right, which is 7 years, right, the midst of the week is what, in the midst of 70 AD, right, which is 66, right, which is in the midst of the siege, right, when right, the Lord cut our people off, right, to cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, for the overspreading of the abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation shall be poured upon the desolate. Right? So Yahushai, right, preached unto the Jews and the Israelite foreigners, right? He said, what? Who shall warn you of the you generation of vipers? How you shall escape the damnation of hell? right? John the Baptist said the same thing, right? Bring forth fruits meet for repentance, right? We show, right, who hath warned you of the wrath to come, right? Right, so the elect back then, right, when they saw that all these things came to pass, right, what does it say? Right, Zechariah 11 and 11, and it was broken in that day, and so the poor of the flock that waited upon me knew that it was the word of the Lord, right? And there's some that fled before that when they saw that, right, these things were coming, right? So we don't know exactly what happened, but the elect, right, were preserved, right? Does not the scripture say that wait upon me till I rise up unto the prey, right? So this can, right, because there's a, right, compassing about of the armies as well in these latter days, right? There's a famine coming, just like it was in the, right, in the siege, right? Right, so we're entering, right, troublous times, right, which is, right, the pale horse, right, represents what? Calamity, right, when these things escalate, and, right, and it starts, right, which is why Pastor Har coined this year, the year of Yahweh Shem Yahushai turning up, right, Lord's turning up the prophecies, right, and, right, Lord's turning up our faith, right, we got to turn up our understanding, right, the power of spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kakodash, right? So Zechariah 11 and 12, and I said unto them, if you think good, give me my price. If not, forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver, right? Because Judas Iscariot, he sold out, right, the Lord, right, Yahushai, for 30 pieces of silver, right? This was his own disciple, his own people, right? The scriptures say that those that of your own household will be your enemies in these latter days, right? Did not the Jews, right, back then, right? What does it say? And I'm just going to give you the precepts. You can look them up on your own. And I'm going to do a lesson on this, Lord willing, right? But what does it say? What did the Jews say when they delivered up Yahushai, right? They said, let their blood be upon us and upon our children, right? And the book of Jeremiah, which that is Matthew, Matthew 27, verse 1 to 25, right? This goes through account of Judas Iscariot, right? Confessing to the Jews, look, I have blood on my hands, right? He wanted to put the money in the treasury, and they said, what do we have to do with that? Right? Go kill yourself, right? That's what they said to Judas Iscariot. Right? So they loathed, right? The Lord loathed them, right? And he loathed, and, right? Zechariah 11 and 8. My soul loathed them, their soul abhorred me. Right? And as you get to Matthew 27, verse 25, right? That goes into what these remaining tribes, right, saying let his blood be upon us and upon our children, right? So the book of Jeremiah chapter 17 and 1 says what? The sins of Judah are written with the iron pen, right? Meaning they transgress more, right, than right, the other tribes. Right, and there were the three, right, really it's the four main tribes, right? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, right? But those three remnant, right, the remnant that were there, right, they right, the southern kingdom had a heavy transgression, right, because they're the leaders, right? So they received the worst of the brunt, right? They were in hardcore slavery, right? They came into Egypt on slave ships. Right, they got it worse, right, even unto today, right, the head tribes, right, they got it the worst, right, they're the most downtrodden, right, they're going, right, and Jake is a monster in these days, man, right, which is why, right, you just gotta, right, preach his word, and, right, The rest is in the Lord's hands, right? Because when all hell breaks loose, Judah's gonna be a terror unto Egypt, like the scriptures say, right? So yeah, that's what it's saying, right? It is talking about, right, Judas Iscariot, right? And you're gonna have that Judas spirit in these latter days as well, right? Zechariah 11:13. And the Lord said unto me, cast it into the potter, right? A goodly price, that I was praised at them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of the Lord. Right? So Judas Iscariot, he repented of his sin. Right? But he was made to go off. Right? And right, Judas is back in these latter days, right? And then he's gonna, right, be part of that 2/3, right? And he's gonna be destroyed. Right? Zechariah 11:14. Then I cut asunder my other staff, even bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. Right? So back then, right, the Lord cast off the northern kingdom and then the southern kingdom, right? When they first were brought into the Holy Land. And then the ancient Roman Empire, you had the 3 remaining tribes, the 3 shepherds, right? Cut off in 1 month, right? And right, during the time of the ancient Roman Empire, you had Jews and Gentiles, right? These various churches, right? And you had, right, the Lord, right, cut us under that brotherhood, right, between those that believed in Mashiach Yahushua and those that didn't, right? Those that didn't were destroyed, right? And you know, the elect escaped some way, somehow, right? So he separated his people back then, and he's gonna separate his people in these latter days, right? Zechariah 11:15. And the Lord said unto me, take unto thee yet the instruments of a foolish shepherd, right? So I'm just giving you a quick run through, right? The instruments of a foolish shepherd is what? Instruments of wood and stone, right? Which is what you see in these churches. Deuteronomy 28:36, right? You will worship gods made of wood and stone, right? The shepherd in the land is what? When Israel was cast off, right? The remaining tribes under the Romans, what happened after that? Right? You had what? That Caesar Borgia eventually arose, right? After Israel was dispersed throughout the 4 corners of the earth, right? And then you had Jake come on slave ships to the Americas, right? Northern Kingdom was here, right? And what was pushed upon them, right? That shepherd was raised up in the land, right? That Caesar Borgia, right? Wood and stone, right? Which is the instruments of the foolish shepherd, right? And our people push that even today, right? Zechariah 11:16. For lo, I will raise up a shepherd in the land, which shall not visit those that be cut off, right? Because we were cut off as a nation, right? We didn't know our nationality, right? We were, right, deceived into thinking, right, the Lord or El Padre, right? Right? We didn't call upon Yahweh, right? We didn't call ourselves Israelites. We call ourselves Christians, Roman Catholics. You know, I used to say that proudly. Yeah, I'm a Roman Catholic, right? When the Romans, I didn't realize Romans was these goddamn devils, right? Neither shall seek the young one, nor heal that is broken, nor feed that standeth still, but he shall eat the flesh of the fat and tear the claws into pieces, right? So the book of Isaiah says we were snared in holes and hid in prison houses, right? The holes are these churches, right? Which is why, right, the scriptures say that the Lord visited those and preached unto those in prison, right? Was there an account of Yahushua going into prisons in the Roman Empire and preaching unto our people? No, that's not what it's talking about. Right? Let's get the understanding. Right? So what does it say? This is 1 Peter chapter 3, and we'll start at verse 12. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are upon their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. And who is he that will harm you, if ye be followers of that which is good? But if you suffer for righteousness' sake, happy are ye, and be not afraid of their terror, neither be troubled. Right? But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be always ready to give an answer to every man that ask you for reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear. Right? Having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Hamashiach. Right? The scriptures say not to be a hypocrite in the sight of men. Right? So you got to be what? Wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Right? Bashem Mashiach Yahushai. Right? 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 17. For it is better if the will of God be so that you suffer for well doing than for evil doing. Well doing is what? Doing his work. Right? For people rather stay in this world, stay in the philosophies of this world, right? We on this side, we're suffering for righteousness' sake, right? We're not troubled, right? We know our salvation draweth nigh, right? 1 Peter 3 and 17. For it is better if the will of God be so that you suffer for well doing than for evil doing. For Hamashiach hath once suffered for your sins, for the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit, right? Which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison, right? The Greek for that is philaki, right? Which is a cage or a hold, right? A stronghold, right? Which is why when Yahushua came on the scene, right, he was pulling down strongholds, right, with the word, right? This is what we're doing today, right? Because scriptures say, if you believe in my words, verily you are my disciples indeed, right? 1 Peter 3 and 20, which sometime were disobedient, when once in long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, where the ark was preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls were saved by water, right? A few are going to be saved by the water of this word, right? Those that are disobedient, right? Because we all, right, fell into the ways of this world. We all fell into a Gentile state of mind, right? So Paul's writings were deep too, man, right? If you don't understand, then you're not being spiritual, and you're not reading. You're not studying. You're not meditating on the word, right? 1 Peter 3 and 21. The like figure whereunto even baptism doth also now save us, not by putting away the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience towards God, by the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? So it's about knowing the Lord's will, right? Being baptized with his word, right? So you can give an answer to every man that asks you, what is the reason of your hope, right? And you answer, right, with meekness and fear, right? But that's it really for that, right? So let's get back to the right lesson at hand, right? Which is Revelation chapter 14, right? Lessons within lessons, right? Like Elder Apostle Torah says, right? This is Revelation chapter 14, and verse 6. right? So as we're partaking of the Lord's altar, right, you have our people partaking, right, because they're after the flesh, right? They're after, right, their treasure is in this heaven. Our treasure, which is in our hearts, is a treasure, right, that of the reward of the kingdom, right? Doing this work, having faith, right? He that endureth unto the end, the same shall be saved, right? Revelation 14:6, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, right? The everlasting gospel is what? Salvation to the elect, condemning 2/3 of our people, condemning, exposing the wicked, being a burden unto America, Babylon the Great, right? Letting these other nations know their judgment, right? Their future, right? Captivity, Esau's future captivity, right? That's the 100% truth, right? The everlasting gospel, the volume of the book, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory unto him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, and the sea, and the fountains of waters. Right? Revelation 14:8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations to drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Right? How do you fornicate with America, Babylon the Great? By trading with it, right? What these other nations did, right? Took on its customs, right? Took on its image, right? Right? The currency, right? Which is blood money, right? It has blood on it, right? America has blood on Babylon the Great, right? Esau has blood in his hands. Babylon was only made great by Jake, right? Years and years of free labor, right? Which is why the book of James says, right, the higher the laborers, right, you have withheld the higher of the laborer, right? Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture, into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Right? Which is what? Synonymous with what? The elect being delivered, seeing the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. Right? You read about that, right? And I brought it up in a lesson, Revelation chapter 11 lesson, right? Which is Salakia. Let me get to that real quick. Let me see if I can find something else. So Revelation 11 and Salakia. Let me get that. Revelation 11 and 12. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Right? Same thing you read about here in Revelation 14 and 10. Right? Revelation 14 and 14. Revelation 14 to 16. It's talking about the elect being delivered. Right? Isaiah 62 and 1. Right? Isaiah 31 and 5. Isaiah 26 and 20. This is talking about the chariots, talking about the deliverance. Enter into your chambers, right? The Lord will who are these that fly like doves? That's chariots. Glorify the Lord in the fires, right? That's the elect being in the firmament. They see the singing. They're gonna right? They're gonna see the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, right? They're gonna see the wrath of the Lord poured out upon this great whore, right? In presence of the holy angels, in presence of the Lamb, right? Because the chariots are going to be there, the angels, the Lord, right? Yahushai, right? Because it says Revelation 15:2, and I saw a word as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that have gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God, right? The elect in the firmament, in the chariot, watching destruction, right? With spiritual power, because Paul said that you can be changed in the blink of an eye, right? So what did I bring out? Revelation 14 and 10, right? Revelation 11 and 12, right? Slovakia. Isaiah. So Revelation. Said Isaiah 24. See if I got another precept for that. Isaiah 24. What's that? 16. Isaiah 24 and 15. Right? So that's glorify the Lord in the fires, right? Isaiah 24 and 15. Wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires, even the name of the Lord God of Israel in the isles of the sea. Right? Isaiah 31 and 5. Actually, let's get 26 and 20. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut the doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. Right? The chariots. Right? Enter into the chariot chambers. Come out of her, my people. Right? Come up hither. Right? This is all talking about the chariots being delivering the elect. Right? Let's get that. Revelation 18 and 4. I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Right? Isaiah 31 and 5. As birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending, he will also deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. Isaiah 62 and 1. Right? For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace. For Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as the brightness, the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. Right? The righteousness thereof is this word coming out, right? This word is being a light unto our people. Right? The salvation thereof is a lamp that burneth, right? Is the chariots, right? The salvation, right? Did not Elisha say to Elijah, Elisha to Elijah, right? He said, "Oh, my father, the salvation of Israel," right? Which words he was talking about the chariots, right? This is Revelation. So I got that actually. Let's go back to chapter 14. Revelation chapter 14 and verse 10, verse 11. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Right? So that place is going to be destroyed, and it's going to stay destroyed. Right? It's going to be a perpetual desert. Right? The smoke ascending up forever and ever. Right? It's not going to literally be smoke on the earth forever and ever. Right? They have no rest day or night who worship the beast in his image. Right? Whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. right? Meaning, right, they're going to be had in derision. They're going to be those that consent unto them, they'll be had in derision, like it says in the book of Second Esdras, right? The smoke of the torment ascended up forever and ever, right? That hints to the remembrance that will be given unto that day that America Babylon the Great is destroyed, right? That's going to be the new Passover, which will be kept, right, in the kingdom of heaven, right? And if it happens to happen on the 14th day, right, which is, right, the full moon, right, which is when the Passover is usually kept, right, it will be for a sign and a wonder, right? Revelation 14 and 12. But no man knoweth the day or the hour, so, we're going to keep it at that. Revelation 14 and 12. Here is the patience of the saints. The patience of the saints. You are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Yahushai. Right? And I heard, verse 13, and I heard a voice from heaven saying, unto me, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yes, say the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors and the works to follow them. Right? So you can have, right, those are going to be, some will be put to death for this truth. Right? Like it says in Revelation 6 and 11 and on down. Right? Or Revelation, not Revelation 6. What is that, 11 and 6? Revelation 6 and 9, right? And Revelation 6 and 9 through 11. When he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Yahweh, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, till their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. Right? So if you need understanding on those verses in particular, watch the Revelation chapter 6 breakdown. Right? So this happened back then. It's right. The apostles were put to death. Right? And some will die for this truth in these latter days. Right? Which is why it says, rest for a little season, right? Right? And their works to follow them, like it says in Revelation 14 and 13. Because what does it say in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 12, right? And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were open, right? So we'll start at 11, right? Verse 10, Revelation 20 and 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Literally, not forever and ever, no. Right? Is the Lord going to take the devil, spiritual demon Satan, to the lake of fire, right? And he's going to take an actual beast and a false prophet, right? And put them in fire and brimstone? No. It's talking about Esau being destroyed, America Babylon the Great being destroyed, World War III, right? The world's going to be flooded with fire, right? So the lake of fire, right, is America Babylon the Great being destroyed, right? Where the beast and the false prophet are, right? Right, so the Lord's going to destroy America Babylon the Great and flood the earth with fire, right? And I saw Revelation 20 and 11, and I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on him, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was no place for them. Right? So that's not literally going to happen, earth and heaven fleeing, right, from the great white throne, right? It's talking about the return of Yahushai, right? The Lord dwelling with his people, right? The elect, right, having spiritual power, right? And the earth and the heaven, fleeing away, meaning Esau's heaven is going to be done away with, right? The way the earth is polluted, all these things, all these atrocities done on earth, right? That's going to be done away with, right? New heaven and new earth, which is talking about a renewing, right? Which is part of that new name. The new name is a refreshing, right? The law will come forth out of Jerusalem, right? The Garden of Eden will be, the earth will be as the Garden of Eden, right? Because it's going to be under the right rulership, right? Which is the Israelites, right? And there was found no place for them, right? So Esau, right? His earth, his heaven and his earth, right? He's going to flee away, and there's going to be a new heaven and new earth, right? Revelation 21:1. And I saw a new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Right? The sea represents nations, right? Tongues, multitudes, right? Revelation 17:15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Right? So it's not going to be a melting pot of confusion on planet Earth. Right? Every people, every nation will be with their nation. Right? They're going to be in hardcore slavery for 1,000 years. Then they're going to be placed back in their own land. And scriptures say every man's going to abide under his own fig tree and under his own vine, meaning around his people. Right? No more confusion, no more mingling of the peoples. Right? Revelation 20:12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. The books were open. Right? Which is, right, it's parabolic for the Israelites waking up, right? The judgment given unto the saints of the Most High, right? And I'll go over that when I do the breakdown for this chapter, right? The judgment being set, right? Like it says in 2nd Esdras, right? The judgment was set and the books were open, right? And every man was judged according to his works, right? So John, the Apostle John the Revelator, he saw this vision, right? But it's not going to play out in this way, right? It's going to play out through the Israelites waking up, opening the book, right? Giving the nation their judgments, the nations their judgments, Esau his judgment, 2/3 of our people their judgment, right? Which is why, right? It says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, right? It doesn't say the elect, right? Because the elect are the ones part of that book being open. Yahweh Shai is what opened the seal of the book, right? It all kicked off with his ministry, right? When he came on the flesh, the Great Commission, right? Another book was opened, which is the book of life, right? Who's written in the book of life? The elect, right? And the dead will judge out of those things which are written in the books according to their works, right? Which is why it says in Revelation chapter 14, right, and 13, that their works do follow them, those that die in the Lord, right? Because you have, right, you have the book of the law, right, which we judge the nations out of. We have the book of the prophets, right? The nations, right, we're letting the nations know what's coming, right? The law and the prophets, right, it's synonymous with the two witnesses, right? The law is a book, right? The prophets is a book. As a whole, the prophets, right? So we're letting Esau know, look, the law says this, this, and that. You know, you're off. You got to be destroyed. The prophets say this will happen in the latter days. This and this will happen, right? The books were open, right? The epistles, right? Because they weren't all these things were given in one dispensation of time, right? Which is why they're called books, right? And there's books that we don't, right? We're not physically opening, right? Which is the books of the works of the saints, right? Which is the new Acts of the Apostles, right? Which is, right, what we're doing with these, making the videos, edifying the people, right? Like it says in Book of Malachi, Book of Remembrance was written before them, right? So it's not an actual book every single time it mentions books, right? There's a Book of Remembrance, right? Which is Acts, the new Acts of the Apostles, right? There's a book of the works of the saints, right? It's not an actual book. A book of remembrance is not an actual book. That's what we're doing right now, right? So you see that, right? And then the book of life, right? Because who's written in the book of life? The elect, right? So the book of life is not, we're not going to open the book of life, right? We are the book of life, right? We are, right, those that are coming to life, right? The like it says in Ezekiel chapter 37, right? The spirit of life, right? But the book of life is those that receive the spirit of life. They're living it. They're right. They're coming back to remembrance, right? And there is an actual book of life that the Lord has, right? Which He knows those that are His, right? That's part of that book of life. So we're not gonna see the book of life, right? When all these things happen. Oh, you know, the Lord is gonna sit in the chariot and pull out a book, right? And the elect are there. And after we watch America, Babylon the Great get destroyed, and Yahweh Shai opens the book of life and He says, "All right, time to call out time to okay, I'm gonna read all your names, the book of life." Right? It's not gonna happen, right? We are part of the book of life, right? We are the book of life, right? We're coming to life by the book of life, right? And the dead were judged out of those things which are written in the books according to their works, right? Daniel 7 and 9 and on down, right? 2nd Esdras 6 and 7, 2nd Esdras 5 and 1 and on down, right? 1 Corinthians, actually that's it for that, right? According to their works, right? So that, right, that's kind of going into that a little bit, right? But let's finish off that. Revelation 20 and 13, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it, right? Meaning those that die in the Lord, right? The Apostle Paul said, right, you can be caught up into the heavens. Those that die in the Lord will be caught up into the heavens as well, right? So you're going to see, right, the dead body of the saints getting caught up into the chariots. Those that die in His truth on this side, right? And the Lord is going to put back the spirit in that body and give it spiritual power, right? It's going to be changed in the blink of an eye. He doesn't have to do that, but it's all to magnify, right, His name. Right? And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, right? Meaning, right, death and hell, right? 1 Corinthians 15, death and hell, where is thy sting, right? Meaning death and hell will not have, right, the grave, right, is going to deliver up the elect, right? Meaning, and death and hell will be swallowed up, right? The elect are going to be all perfect, right? They were judged every man according to their works, right? So at the end of the day, when the judgment is set and all these things come to pass, everyone will be judged according to their works. If you're of the elect, right, you're going to be judged according to your works, right? He who teaches the law, right, and is least in much, right, he will be, right, he will have like the scriptures say, right, he who teaches the law, right, will be the least in the kingdom if he breaks the law, right? So if you teach much, right, unto much, right, you're gonna be given, right, there's gonna be order in the kingdom of heaven, right? Some of us will be delivered, right, but you're gonna be at a certain rank, right, which is why you make a call on election sure, right? Revelation 20 and 14, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, right? The Lord is not going to throw death and hell into the lake of fire, right? Death is the grave. Hell is the state of mind, right? Basically, right, the elect, right, are going to be delivered from death, right? They're going to be delivered from the actual grave, right? Because, right, there's a great multitude is going to be, right, delivered out of America, Babylon the Great before it gets destroyed, right? And we're going to be delivered out of right, this fleshly body, which is hell, right? This is the second death, right? And 2/3, right, they're going to be put to death, right? And those that are, right, that don't receive this word, right, they're gonna be still in this world. They're gonna see this world come to nothing, right? They're gonna be in a hell state of mind, and then the Lord's gonna destroy them in the lake of fire, right? That's the second death, right? First death was flood. The Lord flooded the earth with water, and second death is the Lord flooding the earth with fire. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire, right? So simple as that. If you're not written in the book of life, right, you're gonna die like an Edomite, right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 14, and 14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. Right? It's talking about Hamashiach Yahushua and the fathership. Right? Another angel came out of the temple crying with a loud voice, saying, thrust in the sharp sickle. For the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. Right? Because Matthew chapter 13 says what? The Lord is going to gather his wheat into his barn. Right? And the wicked, the sheep, the tares, he's going to gather them and burn them. Right? Meaning, right, you have Yahushua is going to deliver the elect, and then the angel, right, with his sickle, right, the Lord is, right, Yahushua is going to, right, in verse 14, he's going to come down and reap his elect, meaning he's going to, right, he's going to take hold of them, right, deliver them to the chariots, right, and then the destroyer is going to destroy and do its work, which is what? The ICBM missiles, the chariots, right? Destroying America, Babylon the Great, the ICBM missiles, right? Which is why the scriptures speak about the angel that has power over fire, right? There's going to be an actual spirit, right, that has power over fire. That's going to, right, which is the Lord's spirit, which is going to be in those missiles, right? Let's get that real quick. Damn, what the hell was it? Oh, it's in this chapter, right? So what does it say in verse 16? And he that sat on the cloud thrust in the sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped, right? Yahushua is going to deliver his elect. Another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine to the earth. Right, it's talking about the destruction. Right, the angel had power over fire. Right, this is the Lord, right, reaping the wicked, right, in the form of the destruction. Right, World War III, right, all these things which are coming. Gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. The scriptures say the wickedness is reached unto the heavens. Right? What does it say in Revelation chapter 8 and verse 5? Right? The angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. This is the angel that has power over fire. Right, there were voices, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. Right, which is the right World War III, right, being commenced. Right, because what does it say after that? And the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Revelation 8 and 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. The missiles were cast upon the earth. Right. This is that same angel that took the censer, filled it with fire, and he threw it on the earth. In the spiritual world, he threw it like a baseball. And now, that's, right, in the earth, it's manifesting itself as the missiles, the destruction, right? The third woe, right? Revelation 8 and 7. And the first angel sounded, there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up, right? And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, right? Like it says in Jeremiah, I will make, right, the hammer of the earth into a burnt mountain. Jeremiah 51 and 25, right? Which is synonymous with Revelation 6 and 12, the sixth seal, right? When destruction comes to pass, right? Revelation 6 and 12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, right? Through nuclear fallout, mushroom cloud, the skies are going to be darkened. The great earthquake is what? Earthquakes in diverse places, World War III, starting with America, Babylon the Great, getting destroyed, right? The great earthquake, right? The earth reeling to and fro, right? Because it says, Revelation 6 and 13, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs. When it is shaken of a mighty wind, the wind is what represents destruction, right? So the wickedness is great, right? The Lord has to intervene, right? Because no flesh would be saved, right? This is the book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. Right? These nations were weak, now they're saying they are strong. Right? That's synonymous with what? Right? The Lord hastening the destruction. Right? It's part of the wrath of God. Right? Right? Joel 3 and 11. Assemble yourselves. Come all ye heathen, gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause our mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Right? The valley of decision, the armies of the earth. Right? The mighty ones coming down. Right? Those that are gathering themselves are the armies of the earth. Right? When the elect come down from heaven in the fathership. Right? After America, Babylon the Great is destroyed. Right? The mighty ones that come down are the chariots, which will come down first with Yahweh Shai, right? To deliver the elect. So that you can't read everything in one order. Right? In chronological order. Right? Joel 3 and 12, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Here's a point. Joel 3 and 13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Right? Same thing you read about Revelation 14, right? And 18, right? Revelation 14 and 19, right? The power spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Ba'ashem Kakwadash, right? Double honors the others and apostles of Great Millstone. Lord willing, you were edified. I know this was a doozy, but you know, you either receive it or not, right? So you know, if you have to watch it again and again, if you are behooved, you know, if it behooves you to watch it a couple times, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Get the precepts down, right? And right, get edified, right? Revelation 14 and 19. And the angel thrust in the sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress, even unto the horse bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs. Right? The wrath of God is the destruction. Right? America, Babylon the Great, and throughout the midst of the earth. So Jacob's trouble is Esau's trouble. Jacob's trouble is you other nations' trouble. Right? A time which has not been since the foundation of the world. right? So what is unto the horse bridles? That's about 10 feet high of blood, right? So whether you go up a hill, right, whether you are right, you walk down the street and there's a small pool, right? You know, when it rains and it floods and it's 3 feet high, or it snows 3 feet high, it's gonna be 10 feet high on the earth of blood. That's ridiculous, but that's how that's what's gonna happen. Thus saith the Holy Bible, right? So about 10 feet. What is 1,600 furlongs, right? That's a lot of blood. 10 feet high. That's about a 4-hour distance from Maryland to Virginia. That's 200 miles, right? 10 feet high, 200 miles, right? Bashem Mashiach Yahushai, right? So, Lord willing, you're edified, right? This is Revelation chapter 14 breakdown. It's Brother Yatazadak, Hero Israel. With that, I want to say Kwam Yasharala, Abad Babal, Shalom.